Hi guys, I feel like the prediction I made some time ago that the right of the Conservative Party want Rishi Sunak to remain leader into the general election in order for him to take all the blame for the loss. Well, that seems to be coming true. Former Home Secretary and Rishi Sunak critic Suella Braverman appeared on the Laura Kuenssberg show where she delivered an unhinged rant about how Rishi had failed to listen to her, how she loves her country and that's why she doesn't want Starmer in number 10, and how there isn't enough time to replace the current Prime Minister with somebody else. The Tories are imploding. However, the blame game usually happens post-election. Here it's on full display before the campaigning even starts. Have a listen.
Thank you for coming in. You're warning of a wipeout or a political earthquake. Why?
The plan's not working. And I despair at these terrible results. There's no spinning these results. There's no disguising the fact that these have been terrible election results for the Conservatives. And they suggest that we are heading to a Labour government. And that fills me with horror. I love my country. I care about my party. And I want us to win. And I'm urging the Prime Minister to change course, to, with humility, reflect on what the voters are telling us, and change the plan and the way that he's communicating and leading us.
Now, what she's talking about is double down on immigration, because that's her pet project. It's not about deal with the cost of living crisis, deal with the NHS. That's not her concern. She wants the Prime Minister to, as I said, double down on the issue of immigration. But that's not working because, as we know, the cost of living crisis is what's driving people to the polls. It's driving people away from the Conservative Party. And, you know, Sir John Curtis has pointed out the Conservatives lost 6 points in 6 weeks as a result of Partygate and as a result of Liz Truss. And the Conservatives have not responded to those issues.
If it's that dire, why not change the leader?
Listen, I just don't think that's a feasible prospect right now. We don't have enough time and it's impossible for anyone new to come and change our fortunes, to be honest. There's no Superman or Superwoman out there who can do it. Rishi Sunak has been leading us for about 18 months. He's been making these decisions. These are the consequences of those decisions. He needs to own this and therefore he needs to fix it.
What does...
See, as I said at the beginning, this is about offloading responsibility onto Rishi Sunak. Remember, as I said, the Conservatives have lost 12 points because of Partygate and because of Liz Truss. And what the right of the party are saying is, it's not Liz Truss's fault, it's not Boris Johnson's fault, it's Rishi Sunak's fault. He's not doing enough on immigration. And what they want is for him to crash and burn at the general election, so then Suella Braverman or Liz Truss or somebody else can take over and become leader of the Conservative Party. That's why, and I said before, I didn't believe that they would replace Rishi Sunak with one of their own, because then they would get the blame. Now, is it Rishi Sunak's fault? Part of it is Rishi Sunak's fault, but the main blame has to be laid at the door of Boris Johnson and Liz Truss.
What does he need to do differently then? You say he must change course, but what would that look like?
I think the problem is that our voters are on strike. They're not coming out to support us. We've seen that with the turnouts and we've seen that by losing Conservative strongholds. When I was knocking on doors in the Midlands, in London, in the South Coast, Conservative voters were saying to me very often, we're lifelong voters of your party, but you're not a Conservative party anymore and we can't vote for you. So what does the Prime Minister need to do? I think he needs to show people that he really cares about some of the things that he's talked about. He needs to actually lower taxes in a way that people will feel, not tweaking around the edges. If he's serious about migration, he needs to put a cap on legal migration. He needs to take us out of the European Convention on Human Rights. That's how...
It's completely unhinged, complete insanity. These are not the concerns of ordinary people. Concerns of some people, a small fringe, but the vast majority of people who you need to convince to vote for you are concerned about the cost of living crisis. They're concerned about the NHS. They're concerned about schools. They're concerned about public services. And you're ignoring all of these things and you're focusing on a fringe element.
You actually send the message that he's serious about stopping the votes.
But where's your evidence that those kinds of changes would make any difference? Because Rishi Sunak has cut taxes in the last few months. He has hardened the laws on migration. He has, by some people in your party, moved too far to the right. So where's your evidence that a further move would get your voters back.
The evidence is that people are not voting for what he's doing because they don't believe that we are serious about some of these issues. They don't believe that we're serious about some of these issues because they don't.
It's not that they don't believe that you're not serious about these issues. You're not listening to their primary concerns.
Don't feel the benefits on tax cuts. If he made a bold and big offer on cutting income tax or raising the personal thresholds, people would actually feel the benefits of those tax cuts because we're tweaking and we're just tightening some of the nuts and the bolts in a complex system rather than actually making a meaningful offer to people. People are not convinced by what we're saying.
But where the Conservative Party's put up a candidate who appeared to many people to be on the right in London, she lost.
Listen, in London, we lost because of the National Party's mismanagement of the process. They botched the selection process a year ago, and then really speaking, they didn't run a good campaign. The candidate was unsupported, and that's why we lost.
Not the candidate was an absolute lunatic. That's why you lost.
Are there ministers in government who share your view that all is... Yes.
Of course. I talk to many of my colleagues who are privately demoralised and incredibly concerned about the prospects. We are, at this rate, we'll be lucky to have any Conservative MPs at the next election. And we need to fight. And I'm not willing to give up. It does me no favours to come here and say it how it is and to set out the difficult situation.
No favours. This is all about her building up her platform, building up her profile to become the next leader of the Conservative Party. Leader in opposition, of course, but she wants to be leader of the Conservative Party. And of course, that's why she volunteered to appear on Laura Kuenssberg's show.
That we're in. But I owe that honesty to my colleagues. I owe that to you and the British people who are crying out for a Conservative Party to vote for.
Except I think some of our viewers might feel this morning, and some others in your party might feel, actually, it's people who have been criticising the Prime Minister in public, people who have been playing political games and thinking about their own futures that are part of the problem here.
I reject that. Listen, I'm not in government. I'm not making the decisions on our policies. I'm not there putting forward legislation to ban smoking and to vote on pedicabs. We voted more on pedicabs and on banning smoking, I voted against it, than we've voted on meaningful healthcare reform or fixing social care or improving mental health care. We are not delivering.
My goodness, the irony of such a statement. You have been campaigning, even before you were Home Secretary and after, about culture wars, cultural issues, about immigration. This is the very first time I've heard Suella Braverman talk about the NHS or social care.
For the people, we're not delivering the policies that people want. And it's a disgrace that we are trailing up against Labour, led by Keir Starmer, who has the charisma of a peanut, who is...
What have you got against peanuts? I love peanuts. The charisma of a peanut. You have zero charisma. People look at you and run in the opposite direction because they find your policies inhumane. But unfortunately, she is the face of the future Conservative Party, a party further to the right, a party trailing the policies of Reform UK and the BNP.
Overseeing a party which is a rabble of hard left maniacs who would undo Brexit, who would open our borders and who would indoctrinate our institutions and our schools with politically correct madness.
And see, this is the problem for the Conservative Party at the moment. They're focusing on issues that are not important to the public in general and not on the issues that are. The cost of living crisis, the NHS, schools, infrastructure, public services. No mention of these things. She did talk a little bit about social care, but that's not her primary concern. It's all about cutting taxes for the richest in society, of course, like Liz Truss, and culture wars and immigration. Now, in the sort of silver lining here is that if she does become leader of the opposition or the leader of the Conservative Party in opposition, they'll remain in opposition for the foreseeable future because what she's selling, not many people want to buy. So that's the benefit of having people like Suella Braverman or Liz Truss or Kemi Badenoch in charge of the Conservatives. The further they move to the right, the longer they stay out of government. And that's probably what's going to happen after, after the next election. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.